Welcome back to another thrilling episode of Utility Room Updates with me, your host, Jeff Hoover. Right now we're going to be working on a butterfly patch. So this is where the old alarm system was. They had literally just punched a crappy hole through it and ran the wires through and had the module there. I've deprecated that system a long time ago, all wireless now. But we're going to fix this up and make it nice and clean. So the first thing I did was cut this hole out a little bit, make it nice and square so it has some good edges. And we're going to do a butterfly patch rather than buying one of those patch systems that you can get that have the mesh that's really bulky and awkward. We're actually just going to be using some spare drywall for it. So all I did was take a piece of drywall, took it about here, scored it, snapped it, cut it, held it up here, kind of marked the edge of the hole there, marked the edge of the hole there, ran it sideways, marked the edge of the hole here, marked the edge of the hole here, cut grids all the way across, snapped it, peeled off all the other pieces except that center piece. Did a quick test fitting. Let's see. Actually, I want to go this way. Yep. It now fits that hole real nice. Boom. So that's going to be the patch that we need in the drywall. How are we going to make this look nice, you ask? I'm glad you asked that. Gonna get our trusty hawk. A little bit of joint compound to start. Oh, we got a helper today. Moving the camera. Little boy wants to help with everything. Okay, got our hawk, got some joint compound. We're just gonna, and this stuff does tend to run if it's a little thin and get everywhere. But we're just gonna put a little bit on here for adhesion. Mr. Bob Ross, just scraping in some happy trees. Cool. Boom. Take our piece. Push it into the hole. Boom. Got enough on there. Pull that nice and tight in all directions. That'll smooth it out. And the key for this first layer really is to pull as much excess off as you can. We'll have several coats put on here that'll really build it up. Right now we're just trying to get it on nice and smooth. Clean up the edge a little bit. Now this looks a little rough right now. I promise you when we come back and do our other coats, really smooth it out. You won't even notice it's there. So we're going to let that dry. It's the base layer of the butterfly patch, and we'll come back for more later. Stay tuned. All right, welcome back. We are going to work on layer 2 of the butterfly patch. I threw an industrial fan on it and let it dry. Key for layer 2, first layer is just about getting stuff to adhere. Second layer is about kind of building up your base. What we want to do is really make it nice and smooth so that you don't even notice that there's any kind of a hump. The best way to do that is to utilize kind of a lot more space than you think would be necessary, because it'll be a lot easier to smooth things out and make it less visible than hide it. So we're just going to put some excess on first. Going to build up our base first. Okay, now that we got a good workable spot, I like to go in a couple directions. And I'll do a little bit of pressure here, and then I'll lighten up so it gives a little hump, and then add some pressure to the other side to kind of smooth it out. The other thing you can do using a wider blade is you want to kind of bend it. You want to kind of put a lot of pressure on the outside and very little pressure on the middle. So it scrapes it nice and clean on this edge. And that one was not a great pull. Scrapes it nice and clean on that edge and leaves just a little bit of a hump. Scrape it nice and clean on that edge. A little bit of a hump. Scrape it nice and clean on this outside edge. A little bit of a hump. And then you take it and just kind of lightly put pressure and give it a good smooth coat and scrape at the end. Took a little too much off there, so we'll apply it back on real quick. It's a nice easy thing about it. If you don't get it quite right the first time, you can go back and do it again until you get it exactly how you want it. There we go. And again, the better your edges, the less sanding you'll have to do. So light pressure, light pressure, light pressure, and then start pressure until you scrape it off. That should give you a pretty smooth edge on the top. This is okay, it's not super great, but it's okay for right now. We're gonna let that dry. We'll come back and put a third coat on it, doing the same thing, except we'll widen it out even a little bit more. And by the time you're done, it'll take up most of this area, but you won't see any humps, you won't see any major bumps or anything. It'll look nice and smooth and it'll be hard to see. Welcome back to another episode of Utility Room Updates with me, your host, Jeff Hoover. This morning it is time to show your work. So here is the butterfly patch with just 2 coats on it. And man, is it looking pretty good. Got just a little bit of light sanding I need to do. I could probably get away with just those 2 coats. I'm going to do a third just to be safe because I don't want to get into sanding and have it run a little bit thin. So we'll put one more coat on here in just a little bit. And you can see some of these patches. You saw the holes yesterday. Tap them in with the back of the screwdriver like I showed you. As they dry, they pull in just a little bit more. So I'm going to have to do one more coat on these, possibly a fourth, depending on how well those fill. We'll see, but I'm hoping a third coat should be enough to get everything done, which is usually the goal. You should be able to get most patches done in 3 coats. Occasionally they take a fourth, occasionally you get it done in a second. But I'm pretty happy with the way this is looking right now. Nice and smooth. Can't even tell there was a hole there. We're gonna get this last round on here in a few minutes. I'll do a quick video of that and then we'll let it dry. And then we will sand and we will paint and we'll be ready for a new washer and a new dryer. And this utility room will be updated. Stay tuned. Welcome back to another episode of your favorite show, Utility Room Updates, with me, your host, Jeff Hoover. All right, as I showed in my previous video, we've got the second coat of joint compound done on the butterfly patch. We're going to quickly try to put hopefully what will be the final coat on. It's not terribly necessary, but I want to put just a little bit more on so when I sand it down, I don't have any issues. Basically, the process is going to be the same as coat 2. We're going to widen it out just a little bit, and the wider you go, the easier it is to blend, to have a nice smooth blending between the new stuff and the old stuff. If you try to just patch just that area, you end up with a really big hump that you can really kind of feel and see, and it looks pretty shoddy. So this is going to blend it super nice, make it look super clean, so it doesn't even look like it was ever done. So we're just going to put a little bit on. Sometimes this is a particularly wet mix. I like it a little bit drier, but we'll make it work. It just tends to slop around a bit more when it's wet. And then you drip and you step in it and you track it through the house. I don't know that from experience. Yes, I do. So I always like to throw a little bit excess on at the start. Make sure we've really coated the area well. Occasionally you'll get a little piece of debris that will ruin the smoothness of it. I don't know if you can see it, but there's a little piece here, piece of dust or dirt. Just pull those off. Make sure you wipe them on the other side of the hawk so you don't pull them right back into the mess. And then go over it again, once or twice. Boom. That looks pretty good right there. Pretty happy with that. This end over here, probably can't see, it's a little thick, so I'm just going to bend the blade a little bit, put some pressure on that outside, pull it up once, twice. That smooths that edge out so that I won't have to do as much sanding, and then just a light pull in the middle. Always wiping off the excess. And just to make sure I have a nice edge, I'm going to do the same thing here. I'm going to kind of bend the blade so just the edge of it catches that top piece. Pulled a little bit off there. The same thing here, bend it. Just pull a little bit off. That gives you a nice smooth edge, which will help with the sanding so you don't have a ridge to deal with. And then just a nice light pull. Oh, had it, lost it. There we go. And that's looking pretty good. Nice and smooth. That's what we're looking for. Hopefully that will be just enough to get this done. We'll let it dry, sand it and paint it, and that's your butterfly patch.